the headlines, Ethiopia thwarts attack by the Al-Shabaab terrorist group. And Kenya's content creators reject tax proposals. Hello and welcome to Addis News Hour. I'm Daniel Kasahun with the news. Ethiopia earlier today successfully foiled an attempted attack by the terrorist Al-Shabaab terrorist group in the Ethiopian-Somalia border town of Dorlo. According to the Ethiopian Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces effectively repulsed the Al-Shabaab fighters in their attacks before they could wreak havoc. The defense forces neutralized suicide bombers and destroyed weapons to be used by the terrorist group. Members of the Ethiopian Women Caucus are currently in Cape Town, South Africa, to share experiences with the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa. This according to the Ethiopian Embassy in Pretoria. The Ethiopian delegation, led by Lomi Bedowo, Deputy Speaker and Overseer of the Women's Parliamentary Caucus, aims to learn from the extensive experience of South African parliamentary leaders, the embassy said. The Ethiopian delegation is scheduled to meet with the South African Parliament's multi-party Women's Caucus to gain insights into their efforts to ensure that the South African Parliament fulfills its mandate in a gender-responsive manner. The United Nations Special Envoy to the Horn of Africa, Mike Hammer, and Charge d'Affaires of the United States Embassy, Ambassador Tracy Jacobson, met with the African Union Monitoring, Verification and Compliance Mechanism team in Mekelle and with General Radina in Addis Ababa. The United States said it welcomes the extension of the African Union mandate until December as a key component of working toward a sustainable peace.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Teta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and World Remit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Burr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
Welcome back. You're watching the live transmission of Addis News Hour from the African capital, Addis Ababa. The Kazakh capital is hosting the highly anticipated Astana International Forum AIF under the aegis of President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev on June 9th and 8th. The goal of the forum is to advance security and development while addressing topics that are now at the top of the international agenda, such as climate change. More than 1,000 people are attending the event, including CEOs of multinational corporations, representatives of international organizations, and senior government officials of various nations around the world, including the former Ethiopian President Mullah Teshome. In an exclusive interview with Kazakh Capital Television, former Ethiopian President Mullah Teshome, who is in attendance at the Astana International Forum, stated that the forum is crucial and timely for promoting global cooperation and peace, including addressing climate change and advancing security and development with other countries.
Astana International Forum is very timely to start with. It is to discuss about global issues which has to be addressed, and especially in present day world, we have many problems, global problems, challenges, and also opportunities. So the coming together of the minds and wisdom from different parts of the world can contribute to the addressing these global issues. We have the problem of peace and security, the insecurity in food insecurity rather, climate challenges, droughts, floods, or natural disasters, and also man-made disasters. This has to be somehow addressed through regional organizations and also international organizations according to the specific sectors which they are formed.
That was former President of Ethiopia, Mullah Teshome, who expressed about Ethiopia's challenges and opportunities. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, has set to convene its 14th Ordinary Summit of Heads of State and Government in Djibouti City on 12 June 2023. The summit is expected to bring leaders and officials of various countries discussing on regional issues and IGAD's response to the region's endeavors. The meeting is also likely to review the progress of the peace process in South Sudan. It's to be recalled that the 13th Ordinary Summit of the IGAD Heads of State and Government was held on 29 November 2019 at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, under the championship of Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, as a country, has always been known worldwide the best place for tourism.
Remind me my visits to different beautiful sites in Ethiopia.
Tour guides are really important in the development of tourism.
In general, I would say they are the biggest ambassadors of the country and the sector.
All people is best for this city. This area, this is a national museum for Addis Ababa.
In the past 3 years, the tourism industry has been highly affected, first with COVID, and the second with the conflict that has happened in the northern part of the country.
Photo exhibition or events like this, one thing, it will be a meeting point, it will be a hub for the professional or for the industry stakeholders.
Addis is a vibrant and flourishing city where many people from the regions and the international community who are the diplomatic corps resident in Addis and also tourists passing via.
Best option for like in Ethiopia, Unity Park. This is the best option for visitor.
Welcome back. You are watching Addis News Hour. One of the members of the golden generation of the 16th intelligentsia, more repeated of his role in advancing modern Ethiopian diplomacy was Katama Yefro. He was instrumental in modernizing the foreign policy of Ethiopia in the early 1960s, being a young Pan-Africanist. The son of the modern-day diplomat told ATV Today that the efforts undertaken by his father, if carried on to the future generation, could help Ethiopia stride its regional, continental and global diplomacy. Let's take a look.
The international community, and particularly the superpowers, summon their last reservoir will, the chances for mankind winning the race for time will soon be out of the question. At any rate, there does not seem to be very much time left.
Katama Yefro was a well-known Ethiopian diplomat and politician who lived from 12 December 1929 until 14 January 1994. Katama, who was born on a Mount Garamulata foothills in the eastern Ethiopian province of Hararge, climbed to the top positions in the ministry of Emperor Haile Selassie, serving as the 16th foreign minister of Ethiopia in between 1961 to 1970. He was one of the very few young Ethiopians from farming families to get a high government status through his academic success. He was a key figure in the creation of the Organization of African Unity, which served as the forerunner to the modern African Union. Recently, a book was published that amply exhibits Katama's skillful diplomatic style. His son, Makonnen Katama, wrote the biography in its entirety. Following then, ABC English stayed with Makonnen Katama, who claimed that as a young Pan-Africanist, his father had been crucial in modernizing Ethiopia's foreign policy in the early 1916s.
Before my father became the head of the foreign ministry, many people don't know this, but Ethiopia was part of the Monrovia Group. It shows you how conservative we were. We were very much isolated. He took us out of that policy and brought us into the midst of African politics. And in terms of helping, major movements such as African freedom fighters and all that stuff, and then he created this Afro. He worked on previous works.
This book details the unusual life of Katama Yefro, who was raised by devout parents in a rural Ethiopian village of Garamulata. Katama served in a variety of government roles, but his accomplishments at the head of the Imperial Ministry of Foreign Affairs are what made him most famous.
So one, of course, is to show my appreciation to my father. Just let him know that I'm proud, and I'm sure he's watching down and saying, he's happy that I did this. Second is, as you know, my father worked for his beloved country, Ethiopia, and his beloved continent, Africa. So I have this story, and his fellow countrymen and his fellow Africans should know this story. I have to share this story. That's the reason. Second reason. Third reason, of course, it's going to inspire a lot of youth and future youth, for that matter. So it's for this generation and the next generation as well. I think his story, as you said, he comes from a humble background, took the opportunity, got his education. Not only did he make a name for himself, but he did he made a lot of contribution for his country and his continent. That's why I wrote this book.
Makonnen father added that his father Katama traveled to Ethiopia, another part of the continent, to share his country's success.
Ethiopia has been embarking upon a host of measures to promote private business persons to do business across the country. Talking to ETV English, Adil Ali, Director General of GitFarms International Trade PLC, said open new thinking is instrumental to start businesses in Ethiopia. Haftam Ashari tells us more.
After a massive political reform in Ethiopia, inviting private business persons to start business in Ethiopia is a prioritizing activity made by the government. As part of this move, the number of private business and privatization in Ethiopia is increasing time to time. Talking to ETV English, Director General of GETFARM International Trade Policy said hope and new thinking are key instruments to do business in Ethiopia.
First of all, we have to have good hope. And then next thing would be to take a step further. Not everything has to be fulfilled in order for you to take a step to establish a company. You can start empty-handed. All you have to have is hope. Okay? There are certain setbacks that will occur, and that is what makes business interesting. We export black seed and black seed oil extracted here in Ethiopia, cold pressed. We ship to several countries, to name a few: France, Germany, Australia, United States.
According to Adil, using problems as a means of opportunity is critical to start business in Ethiopia, and now he is exporting agricultural products into the European market. He calls upon new business comers to have passion and hope to commence effective business in Ethiopia.
For any investors coming to Ethiopia, you know what is unique, what makes us unique here in Ethiopia: the climate, the soil, and then last but not least is the investment bureau. You can come anytime and then ask any questions you want. You have it all answered before you know it, and then just move on.
Ethiopia is registering tremendous achievements in attracting foreign direct investment to the Horn region by managing national and international shocks. Talking to TV English, State Minister for Industry Hassan Mohammed said Ethiopia successfully managed the negative impacts of the Russo-Ukraine war over the above, surviving the COVID-19 pandemic to register sustainable economic development.
To move doing business or investing in other countries. As you know, there is international shocks, external shocks around the world, whether it's natural disaster or man-made disasters. So the Ethiopian government, especially the homegrown economy, mitigated, to interact these external shocks, not to hurt the economy of the country.
In connection with the FDI, the State Minister underlined that Ethiopia is implementing the homegrown economic reforms so as to secure huge FDI flow in the Horn of Africa region.
There are policies which we revised them to attract foreign investments. For example, incentives given to the foreign direct investors, and especially ease of doing business, enabling environments, and to attract more foreign direct investments. And that's why Ethiopia has got a resilience economic for the past years.
The African Union expressed commitment to enhance macroeconomic convergence for the realization of economic integration in Africa. Talking to ETV, the African Union Commissioner for Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industry and Minerals, Robert Muchanga, said Africa's economic integration compared to other continents is low, adding African continents should promote industrialization.
Even in the middle of a severe global economic crisis and recession, Africa's economic development and performance during the previous 10 years remained strong. However, the expansion hasn't led to appreciable drops in poverty rates, nor has it produced a lot of jobs. Meanwhile, efforts at accelerating continental integration, increased intra-Africa trade, and improved connectivity through infrastructure development are still expected for the realization of economic integration in Africa. The Africa Union's Economic Development, Trade, Tourism, Industrials and Minerals Commission says it has been working for economic integration of the continent, particularly focusing on microeconomic convergence.
When we established the African Economic Community, the idea is to have ultimately one central bank, an African central bank, and one currency, an African currency. To do that, you needed to create the groundwork for macroeconomic convergence. So our department has been working to come up with the macroeconomic convergence criteria, which were approved by the heads of state and government in 2021. And The institution to oversee implementation of those criteria is the African Monetary Institute. We are finalizing work on the statutes of the African Monetary Institute, and it's going to be based in Abuja, Nigeria. So on that basis, we'll be able to ensure that we have harmonization of the policies of our member states with respect to issues of inflation, external debt level, exchange rate, and other macroeconomic variables.
Despite these efforts, the level of economic interconnectedness compared to other continents has not shown significant improvement, and Machanga urged African countries to promote industrialization.
When you look at the pattern of intra-African trade, 42% of intra-African trade is made up of manufactured goods. And this is very good. It's also indicative of what is happening globally. Globally, 52% of international trade is made up of manufactured goods. So for us to raise that figure, we need to promote industrialization, and we are working towards promoting industrialization.
The much anticipated African Continental Free Trade Area is expected to facilitate the economic integration of Africa. This will remove impediments to commerce and increase intra-Africa trade. In particular, it aims to promote trade in value-added production across all service sectors of African economy.
Welcome to the land of origins. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia is pleased to serve all your traveler banking needs. If you have money from any of these 16 countries, you can convert it to local currency by visiting our nearest branch. Alternatively, our secure Forex ATMs accept cash exchange, or if you prefer using your cards, we've partnered with Visa, MasterCard, and UnionPay so that you can withdraw cash from our local ATMs or make cashless transactions at thousands of local POS partners securely and with confidence. We are linked with more than 700 global banks through our direct SWIFT address, CBE Teta. We also work with 16 international money transfer agents, out of which Tune and WorldRemit enable you to make direct deposits into our savings and current accounts or our popular CBE Burr mobile wallet. Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, the bank you can always rely on.
Moving to another news from the African continent, digital content creators in Kenya have denounced the government tax proposals that include a 15% tax on their earnings. Economists have also indicated that if approved, the proposal will have major effects on the income earned by individual content creators and the growth of the entire digital economy. Shegai Mata has more from Africa News.
Kenya's Finance Bill of 2023 has a raft of proposals that intend to expand the country's tax bracket. One of the controversial proposals aims at subjecting income and through digital content monetization to a 15% withholding tax. Eric Omondi, a renowned comedian, is leading content creators in opposing the proposal.
Do not attempt, do not think, do not try to tax youths, and especially online media. Do not tax content creators, because you do not create them, you do not support them, you don't know who they are, you don't know their struggles, you have never talked to them, you have never called them, you've never supported them, you want to tax them. That is theft. You cannot take money that does not belong to you.
The content creators decry that the proposed tax is too high for a growing digital economy, given that they get minimal government support in content creation.
What we earn on YouTube or other social media platforms cannot cater for our needs. So when the government comes in and says that they want to tax 15% from it, it means that they are leaving us on a negative side.
Economists also indicate that if approved, the proposal will have major effects on the income and by individual content creators and the growth of the entire digital economy.
One of the irony in this digital service tax is levying a withholding of 15% on it. And remember, this is just a withholding tax. Withholding tax is not final. So again, the digital content creators will be expected to do their books at the end of the year to show how much they earned. In other words, after you've paid 15%, you'll still be expected to pay what is called a final tax.
The finance bill will be tabled in Parliament this Thursday, and the forecast now will turn on the members of Parliament to see whether they will pass it or reject it.
To remind you the headlines. Ethiopia thwarts attack by the Al-Shabaab terrorist group. And Kenya's content creators reject tax proposals. That's all for this edition. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your company. Goodbye and stay safe.